All right, what's up, everybody? Give me a minute here to open up the chat. If you guys are on the Tunefox webpage, just click on the YouTube link at the lower right-hand corner of the video, and that'll link you to our YouTube page. And then you can get some questions going. But I'm going to pull it up on my phone right now so I can see what everybody's doing today. If you want to go ahead, you can be just like typing some comments in the chat there while I'm pulling this up. All right, I got the chat pulled up, so if you guys want to put any comments in there, any questions, go ahead. What's up there, Oliver? You got any questions, man? I've got some topics kind of prepared that people have already asked, but if you guys have anything you want to learn about, any questions about Tunefox, banjo, guitar, mandolin, just go ahead and put those in the chat, and I'll answer everything you got there. Hey, Yudi, what's up? Hope everybody's having a good day. All right, I'm going to go ahead and go with some stuff that people have already asked about. And this lesson's going to be recorded, so it'll be available on the Tunefox page. So, interested in learning path for playing with others. All right, I believe we've got some different learning path for playing with others. Okay, so some things you'll want to know is, and what instrument do you play there, Sarah? What instrument do you play? Will you put that in the chat for me, please? Oliver, you play mandolin? Cool. Yeah, everybody go ahead and just put what instrument you play in the chat, and that way I'll know kind of what type of players we got here and what I need to talk about. Banjo. So Sarah, yeah, so the main thing you'll need to know for playing with others, you'll need to know your vamp, which is this kind of backup where you use these kind of chord shapes. All right, and then some rolling backup. Mainly just backup for playing with others. I mean, eventually you want to learn some leads, and then you want to learn some standards, okay? So we've got some, I'm going to get it on my phone so I can refer you to some more stuff on Tunefox here. But we've got like some beginner paths and some backup paths. I actually just did an up the neck banjo lesson path for Tunefox. Might be a little advanced, so we might want to start just a little bit simpler. Let's see here what we got. Yeah, so if you go to the lesson section on Tunefox on your phone, we've got, you'll want to know your basic chords, your vamping and closed position chords. That's a great one to do. So that's the vamping, like I said, in closed position. Closed position means no open strings. So this. That's your closed position chords, okay? That's a great thing to learn. And then you'll definitely just want to learn some standards. So like 9-pound hammer stuff they play at your jam. Let me see, what's some other ones? Maybe Fireball Mail. Do you have a local jam that you go to? Well, obviously COVID, not many local jams. But before COVID, was there like a local jam or a local group of musicians you would go to sometimes? Because if there is, you'd want to go and just kind of write down a list of songs that they do. Okay? But that'd be the main thing, just your vamping, your rolling back up, and learning some standards. After you get that, then you'd want to learn some leads. Yeah, for mandolin, you'd want to know, I mean, mainly for doing bluegrass, chop chords is the main thing. That's the main thing you want to learn, and just know your chord progressions for some different standard songs. And then beyond that, you can do some double stop stuff, but usually mandolin backup isn't always as intricate as banjo backup, but neither of them have to be. You can just keep it simple a lot of the times. It doesn't always have to be. Doesn't always have to be that complex kind of stuff. Usually you just want to keep simple and be on time. I would say that's for playing with other people, that might be the biggest thing, is making sure that you're practicing with a metronome. And if you're practicing with Tunefox, you'll want to go to the tools and turn the band down, and just practice with that metronome click. Well, maybe if you're first starting, you might want to just not turn the band off, but just turn it down so you can still kind of hear it, so you can hear when those chords are changing. And like I said, just keeping that steady beat. But the metronome will be huge for that. Okay, what else we got here? I had a lot of people asking about speed on the banjo, stuff to do to play faster. Let me see here. So one of the big things is just muscle memory and repetition. You know, a lot of the times, I remember when I was first learning, you know, I'd feel great if I got from the start of the song to the end of the song. You know, I felt relieved. But I learned that really to start getting better, when you're practicing, you just want to kind of continue it along. So Tunefox, usually when you're going through a song, it's going to loop you from the end to the beginning. And I'd encourage you guys to get, once you maybe have the tune under your fingers and you can get it from start to end at a tempo you're comfortable with, just let it loop, play it over and over, develop a bunch of muscle memory. That's really one of the biggest keys to getting speed, is just doing this repetition. Some other stuff we have in Tunefox that'll help you is the speed up feature. So if you go into your tools and then hit the little speed up slider, and then it'll say 2, 5, or 8. What that 2, 5, or 8 means is that every time you go through, it's either going to speed up the metronome by 2 beats, 5 beats, or 8 beats per minute. I'd recommend starting at just 2, keep it simple, and then start at a tempo that's really easy for you, something you can control. If you're playing something, let me see. If you're playing something and you feel like you have tension either in this hand or anywhere in your body, you're probably playing too fast. You need to play at a tempo that's you can feel relaxed at. And then so start there and then use the speed up feature to kind of do some repetition, but also slowly increase your speed. All right, and then if you get to a tempo that's too fast, all you got to do is just slow it back down a little bit, okay? Let me see here. All right, some other stuff for speed. You got to isolate and loop the hard measures. So anything, a lot of times, you know, when I'm teaching people, they might get through half the song really well, but they get to one section and it's really tough for them. So you want to make sure those tough parts are just as easy to play as all the rest of the stuff. And what you need to do for that, like I said, is just isolate and loop. So you can take one measure and just play it over and over. And we've got a looper on Tunefox. If you're on your phone or your tablet, you just kind of tap that measure and it'll just loop that one measure, and then you can control your tempo with the tempo slider and just play that one measure over and over. Another thing that you can do, transition D-shaped chord in a reasonable amount of time. Yeah, hang on, Sarah. I'll get to that D-shaped chord coming in just 1 second. I think I got some ideas for you. Another thing you can do for speed is if you look under in the jam packs on the songs at the starter series, I've got a lot of songs like stuff from Angelina Baker, speaking of D, instead of like all those notes, da 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 da, it's a lot of 16th notes. I've got some stuff in there that's a lot more simple. So some simple stuff that's melodic, some simple stuff that's single string. It's basically just taking out a lot of the notes, but still preserving the melody. So if you got less notes, it's going to be easier to play faster if you don't have all those bada bada badas, all those super quick notes going. So look under the songs and let's see if I can just pull it up on the phone in front of you guys. Yeah. Where are we? So, there's the camera. So if you go to songs down here, and then you go to jampacks up there at the top left, and you go to starters. I guess that's, where is it? Yeah, there you go. Scroll down there to starter series. Yeah, and so there's a lot of like really simple stuff that you'll be able to play a lot faster, than something that has all those 16th notes. All right, so transitioning to D-shaped chords. And I guess you're talking about just backup or lead, and do you mean like this kind of thing? I mean, part of it's just learning the chords. You want to know your closed position chords, which if you played in G, you've probably learned that shape, unless you've only done this one shape and moved it. But really, I mean, if you're playing in D, you can learn that one chord shape and then use this F chord shape for your 4 and your 5 chord, and that should pretty much get it. But so playing in D, let me think here more in depth. There's a couple options. What I'm doing right now is I'm playing without a capo over here, but I'm spiking the 5th string at the 7th fret. You might have one of those over the neck capo suspenders you can put right there. But that turns this G note into A note, which is a D note in the D note chord, in the D chord. So, I mean, what I'm doing right there is I know, alright, we got open D strings. Those are going to work for the key of D. And then we got that newly spiked A note. Usually backward rolls, I feel like when I'm playing at an open D, are a little bit better than forward rolls a lot of the time, because your root note is up here. So I'll use that backward roll a lot in open D. It's thumb, index. Give me a minute to think about this. Thumb, index, middle. I'll put this roll out. I'll have to sit out and write it down, but I'll put that roll out and maybe a little blog post or something that kind of reviews the stuff we did in this lesson. Okay, but yeah, it's like a kind of an extended backward roll that I'll use a lot. So, yeah, open D, you can put the capo on there, or do it without a capo. Some stuff I might play actually out of C position. Let me think here, what's something to do, C position. So maybe Soldier's Joy, the fiddle tune. So in that case, playing D, we're learning all the C chord shapes, right? So you got your C and your 4 chord, your most common chord out of that shape is going to be your F chord. And then your G, open. Great, right? Don't have to use any strings unless we're adding a lick kind of thing to it. In this case, your root note, your D is right there, so a lot of times you might start the phrase by bringing your thumb down. And so we got our C chord, F chord, G chord, but if we're doing it closed up the neck, whether the capo's here or whether the capo's off, right, we'll just have our D chord up here if we're doing some more closed position chords. We could drop down. So the reason I'm able to find those chords, it's really good to learn how the chord inversions change as you go up. So let's say we're working, let me take this capo off here. Let's say we're working, we're back in G, okay? And this is just to show how the chords kind of move around. We've got this F chord shape, all right? We're going to use these two front fingers as guide fingers, all right? We're going to slide them up 4 frets. And we're going to flip where these fingers were, all right? So this is going to go to the string below, string above, and now I've got that chord shape. All right? Sometimes known as the D chord shape, because a lot of times when you're playing open G, it's down here. But it's all the same notes of the G chord. G chord is G, B, D. Here we got G, B, D, G. Here we got B, D, G, B. So a lot of the times when you're just have one chord that goes for a while, once you find the root chord shape, whether it's G here or D here, you slide it up 4 frets, and then you flip those fingers. And just gets a little bit more interesting, than just sitting on the one chord. Although you can always add different interest with your right hand and little left-hand embellishments. Okay, so another inversion, all right, is going up 3 frets, and then that point, it's just flat. Usually that's not used as a chord in backup, at least not playing as this kind of chop thing, this vamp thing. We don't usually do. You'll rarely hear a banjo player do that. A lot of the times they'll use just a piece of that chord as a lick. So like that. You can see that's all out of these chords. I'm adding that one little ring finger in. But it's out of that chord. You see, I'm not moving any of the other chord fingers. And then when I slide up here to do this thing, that's the pinky note from this chord. I'm just going in from a note below, little tension note, little blues note, to get that going. All right? Kind of went off on a tangent there. Let me see what's going on in the chat. That one is hard. Yeah. Practice that shape slowly and get used to them. Yeah, I mean, so do you mean these chord shapes, Yuri? The like this and this thing? Yeah, that lick I just showed you is definitely hard, but I just wanted to show you that a lot of the complex licks that you hear from complex banjo backup actually comes out of simple chord shapes. So that was the main point that I wanted to make right there. Okay, so F shape and D shape. It might be best to start with these front finger notes. So let's say we got our F shape chord. We're actually going to play it. Well, let's just play it at that back here, okay? Just so we know why it's called an F chord, because your root notes, or whatever these notes are, wherever they are, that's the root note of your chord. So right here, D, E, F, that's our root note. Alright, and then we've got middle finger right there, 2nd fret, first finger, 1st fret. So that's 2nd fret G string, 1st fret B string, and then pinky note there on the high D string. Alright. You might want to start out just making sure you're getting clear notes. So just go through one by one. Make sure you got clear notes with each of those strings. Alright. If you notice my wrist position is pretty neutral. So we don't want that. We don't want that. Alright. It's totally fine to have your thumb over the top. Sometimes I might have my thumb more, let's see if we can get an angle here. You know, just on the back of the neck there. But usually you want it pretty neutral. That's good hand health. This exaggerated hand position like that is usually going to lead to probably some kind of tendonitis or something. So you want to take care of your hands. You also want to play, you can see how I'm almost right on the fret there. You don't want to be near the back of the fret, right? That's going to, you're having to press down hard. So you want to be right there. All right, so at first you're going to be pressing down. Just making sure you're getting notes. And then to get the chop part of it that I was doing. Alright, you want to make sure you press the notes and then release on time. Alright, and I'm not releasing off, it's just, you can see the strings barely moving right there. That's just releasing enough pressure to stop the sound. Alright, so you want to do it really slow and deliberate. Everyone that I've taught always has the tendency to just go for it, but you want to develop your control first. Alright. And then like I said, we slide these front fingers up 4 frets to get the inversion from wherever that root chord was, right? It doesn't matter if it's F, G, or we're playing it up here at the 12th fret for D. It doesn't matter. We slide up from here, 4 frets, flip those fingers, and then we've got our inversion. Alright, so that's our F inversion. And the same thing, check all your notes, make sure they're going good, and then do that. Bass note with the thumb on the wound string, and then you can either pinch all 3 or just the top 2. 3, 4. Yeah, that's probably a good thing to do. So you kind of play it on beat. 1, 2, and then release on 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then go back. 3, 4. Like I said, most of the time that the next inversion, which would be 3 frets up from here, is not really used as a vamp chord. All right. So I want you to know where that is, so that you know where some available notes are. Maybe if you're just playing the higher strings. Something like that, but really it's not using the chop chords, okay? Touch on maybe putting that in context with an actual chord progression really quick, and then we're going to move on to maybe some mandolin stuff. We've been on the banjo here for a while. Let me check the chat again, see what's going on. All right. All right, so let's say we've got just a basic 1-4-5 in the key of G. All right, 1-4-5 is what we use numbers to kind of denote chord progressions, and they're called 1-4-5 because they're based on the 1st, 4th, and 5th note of whatever scale we're in. So in G, the first note of the scale is G. C is the 4th note, and then D is the 5th note. So we got a G, C, and a D chord. All right, so our G chord, we're going to go to that F shape, the 5th fret. And that's just a little bit of variation from what I was doing, the simple chop, which is totally usable, especially in backup, like if you're in a jam or something. All I did was get that kind of slide out. I think that's one of the big things that made Earl's backup so interesting. Is he'd always slide in and slide out a note, and it just, I don't know, man, it just gives it this really cool feeling. So I really dig. Sliding in and sliding out is cool for backup, but you don't want to be too loud in backup. You never want to. You always want to be able to hear the lead instrument or lead vocalist. And you can see my hands up here near the neck, not back near the bridge, because this is more for lead type playing usually, because it cuts right through the mix. So usually up here it's more mellow, and then whoever's playing lead, you know, will be able to be heard above that. Because of the tone and volume control reason. Okay, back to the chord progression. Maybe do that. Then we're going to go to the C chord, which is there at the 10th fret. And remember, to get the inversion, we slide up 4 frets, flip the fingers. Alright, so. Alright, I did that 2 times at C. Let's go back to G. Alright, and then we're going to the 5 chord, which is D, up here at the 12th fret. Alright, then back to G. And then we start the chord progression all over at G. Now that was just kind of a random example, that wasn't a specific song, but a pretty common chord and maybe a common amount of time we'd spend on each chord, okay? Alright, move over to the mandolin, because I think we got some good stuff there on banjo for everybody. Do we got any mandolin questions? Oliver, you still in here, man? You got any questions for Mando? If not, I've got some other stuff that people have already asked. Right. Something random I want to talk about. I'm not sure what kind of picks everyone uses for mandolin. I've kind of got 2 different preferences. I really love these, where's my camera? These kind of small round triangles. I think these are great for tremolo. But a lot of the times, if I'm doing more intricate, like cross picking or something, I really like these big triangles. It's a little bit more to hold on to, and because of the pointed tip, I feel like it's a little bit better for me for cross picking. All right, so just wanted to point that out. Arpeggios. Okay, let me see here. I mean, so what kind of arpeggios are you doing, Oliver? Like, so like a simple, some G and D arpeggios, round and mediums. Nice. Yeah, arpeggios. Let's see here. So that one, I mean, that was just going through a simple G arpeggio. A big part of that is going to be knowing a little bit of theory. So if you're doing a major arpeggio, you're going to go from your root note and then 4 frets up. That's your major third, just like we went 4 frets up for the banjo, you know. And then 3 frets up for your 5th note, all right? And from there, that's the whole arpeggio, and then you're starting over. Your next G note is right here. 5th note, go up 4 frets. All right, and then that's the whole arpeggio for that octave G. Then we're at our next octave, which is up here, 10th fret on the A string. And there's your next one. So you might use a little bit different fingerings than I just did there. Let me see here. Yeah, so I obviously need to practice my arpeggios as well, and my advice would be do what I just did. If you're making mistakes, you're going a little bit too fast. So anytime you're making mistakes, just slow it down, whatever speed you need to. I mean, if you need to go that speed, you know, to really make sure you're getting the notes right, that's good. And the other thing that's happening here, you can see I'm holding down each note as I go. Right? I'm not doing... And so holding down those notes is just helping build my finger strength and build my muscle memory. Okay? So let's take another arpeggio. So that's a G arpeggio. Let's check out a C. I'm doing just kind of the simple 1-4-5 like we did with the banjo. Let's start with our C note here. And there's different ways you can finger the arpeggio. So you could kind of play it out of the chord right here. And it's really good to know that that arpeggio is there. So anytime you're doing that C chord, you know that's available to use, and you can sometimes do that as a fill if you're playing the backup. So really good option to have. But so we got that way to do it. All right, and then we could also come up here and use our first finger right here, switch positions. All right, so let's see, going a little bit slow, making sure I get all the notes right. Yeah. All right, so there's your C arpeggio. So arpeggios are really good to start learning where the notes are on the neck. As far as using them in a song, you're probably not going to want to play just straight arpeggios. You're usually going to want to like slide into a note or something like that. I think you could see where I did that a second ago on the playing down here. So instead of just, which I mean it sounds good, but right, so I'm just adding a little chromatic note in there with that arpeggio that gives it a little bit more flavor. Right, so that's going on the flatted third, which is always a good note. It's a blue note, you know, that's the note that's a big basis of the blues. Sliding in from your flat third to your major third. So you can slide in, slide out, or pick in and pick out. All right, D arpeggio. That's like right out of that kind of open chord. All right, but if we're playing, let's see, there's your D chop chord. So just like we did the C here. We can do it out of the D chord right here. Let me check here. All right, and then the same thing, just how we moved the C arpeggio right here. Do it right here. Switch our position. Go to our first finger. Where is it? Hold on. Go really slow, like I said, if we're making mistakes. Alright, there's our... There it is. Alright, and just go real slow. You don't want to have that choppy... You want to really develop good muscle memory if you're going to do these. And you can see when I'm going back down, I'm not letting off the fingers. All right, so here's going up. Right, I'm moving that first finger. All right, so see when I went up to that really high note, I didn't let go of that middle finger. So that all I've got to do is just let off that pinky. And that first finger's still there too, right? That just makes it a little bit easier going down. Okay. All right, so yeah, just work on some of those arpeggios. If you look on Tunefox in the song section in the scale workout, there's a lot of like ways to use the scale and play through the arpeggios within the scale. Okay, and doing that with the workout should help you a bunch, man. So check out, I think we've got A major, C major, D major, and G major. All right, so just getting a lot really familiar with the scale. And then working it in thirds, which is basically what arpeggios are. We've got a major third, which is 4 fret jump, and then a minor third. And And those notes, that's the kind of the mathematical formula for how to make a major chord. If you wanted to make a minor chord, you do the reverse. So let's say we wanted to make a G minor instead of a G major. So our first jump, instead of being 4 frets, is going to be 3. You can hear the difference, right? Right? Usually minor is associated with sad sound and stuff. So we're going to do a minor third and a major third. So 3 fret jump, then a 4 fret jump. There it is. Yeah, and total different sound, right? But it's just wanted to point out that formula for how you get the notes for an arpeggio, which are also how you get the notes for a chord. The only difference between arpeggio and chord is that arpeggio is the notes played one at a time. Alright, and then a chord is just all those notes played at once. A little bit harder to play it on the mandolin just because it's not laid out like that. There we go. Where is it? No, it's a minor chord. That's arpeggiated, and this is played as a chord. That's really the only difference is the sequence in that they're played. All right, here, let me see, check the chat, see if we got any more questions for the mandolin. If not, I'm going to flip through my notebook here of some questions. I had some other people asking for mandolin because that's some other questions too. All right. So someone had a question on like how to find double stops to get a more full sound. So I think what they meant is like taking a simple melody, let's say like I'll Fly Away. And then added some double stops to it. And double stops are just 2 notes played at one time. So the way you're going to find those double stops is you kind of need to know the shapes. So learning some movable double stop shapes, and we're actually going to release a course lesson next month over movable double stop shapes. So be on the lookout for that. And then also sometimes just playing out of chords. All right, so let's say you're in A when we're playing I'll Fly Away in the key of A. So learning some different chord shapes. All right, so here's like a basic bar chord A. And if you don't know these kind of bar chords, if all you know is maybe these simple kind of open chords, we actually have Bluegrass chop course and bar chord chop course in our lessons. So check those out to learn some of those chords. But what I wanted to point out here, so there's our A chord. So let's say the first chord in I'll Fly Away, some glad morning when this life is o'er. So that whole little section is all over A chord. So wherever the melody notes are, if we pair an A chord note with that melody note, it's going to sound good. It's going to be a good double stop. So let's look at that first phrase. All those melody notes are in the key of A. All right. So our A chord, we've got A, C sharp, and E. So any of those notes paired with those melody notes are probably going to work good. And then we can also move the harmony around a little bit depending on just where it is in the scale at that moment. But let's look at the first bit. All right. So usually you just want to find neighboring notes that are kind of convenient. So a neighboring note on a different string, because we can't play a harmony on the same string, right? We've got to have 2 strings. We got this E note. That's in the key of A, and it's in the A chord. So right there. And instead of just doing the single notes, we can do some tremolo, kind of a, just keep it on beat. Right, that sounds good. All I did was just play that E note with it. We could have moved it around a little bit more. Right, add that little double stop whenever we go to the, or that first finger note double stop. Alright, and then our next note, I'll fly up. That's over the D chord. I'll fly up. I'm not saying way because way is back to the A chord, but so let's see. So we got the A note there. It's a little bit harder one to find. Sometimes you don't always have to do a different note. A lot of times on mandolin, on banjo, on guitar, a cool thing to do in bluegrass is actually sliding up. That's like so bluegrassy right there. Right? So, I'll fly away. You could just slide up 4th fret to 7th fret. Right? And then for these notes, fly away. I'm just playing that A string with it. But like I said, you could either just slide up and tremolo, or do this. Right? I know that's not the double stop you were asking for, but it's one of those things that gets the more full sound that you were talking about. So, fly away, and right there we're ending on the A chord. So that A note, that's a shared note between D and A. All right, so it's a great to know anytime you've got shared notes, because sometimes if you wanted to. You've got a safe note to play. If you don't know anything else to play and you don't just want to completely stop playing your solo, sometimes just play the root note of the key you're in, and it's going to sound okay. It'll work out. All right, so let me look at the next couple bits of melody in this, and then we might move on to some guitar stuff. Same exact phrase we opened with. I'll fly away. Right, that E note is a shared note between the A chord and the E chord. So, I'll fly away. All right, so that's just a couple examples of how to use some double stops and some shared notes to get a little bit more sound with a basic melody. Like I said, be on the lookout next month for the course we're going to release that's going to be movable double stops. So it's going to take you through some stuff like this. Right? So some kind of stuff like that, and it'll help you kind of know where to, once you find a double stop shape, like we're playing over a D chord, help you learn how to kind of navigate that, and that'll help you. Once you've got a double stop in the melody, you can kind of move it around if it's hanging on that melody note for a long time. Some glad morning when this life is over. Right, it's hanging on that A note for a while. So if we're in the key of D, you can do that. Right, it's hanged on that A note. So you've got time to kind of move around, add some little licks, or add a movable double stop. So like I said, be on the lookout for the chorus. Someone also said something about mandolin, learning how to speed up. Big part of that's just going to be mandolin, using the metronome, and doing some repetition. So repetition, whether that's a song you're learning on, learning the scale, like I was talking about earlier with the arpeggios, when you're doing a scale, you really don't want to let off your fingers that much. So let's say I'm doing an A major scale. I'm going to do this with some open strings. Alright, so you can see I'm holding those fingers down. back up and when I'm going down. So you don't want to do this. I'm not even letting off that much. You don't want your fingers flying around, right? Especially going back down. If you can, you really want to put the fingers you're going to use down at the same time. So instead of put them down one at a time, put them down as a group. All right, and you may have to go real slow doing that. But just developing that efficiency where your fingers aren't flying around, where it's as little of movement as possible, is going to help with your speed. Something that'll help with your right hand is not letting the pick go too deep. I'm not sure you can see that right there. So if it's in really deep, like it's a lot to move over. But if it's just the tip, it'll be able to move a little bit quicker. Big part might just be practicing some tremolo, because you also don't want a really tight pick grip. That'll get you a really choppy sound. You want it relaxed. And then maybe just working, instead of working maybe this scale, which is a little bit more demanding of your left hand, maybe work like an open D scale. But applying the same concept. So leaving those fingers down, and then coming back down, having all of them down, just lifting one at a time, and not lifting a lot. So not that. And see, once I'm off and I just play that open A string, my finger's still hovering right over the fingerboard. And then keeping that alternate picking going. All right. So I'm going to move on here and do some stuff for the guitarist. I'm going to check the chat too. I hadn't checked that in a minute. Sorry, guys. Any guitarists out there? Any guitar questions we got? Alright, I got some stuff I'm going to talk about. So some of this guitar stuff will kind of transfer over to the mandolin, because it's all music, right? It's all notes. So pay attention here. I'm going to go over some stuff that I might do over Turkey in the Straw. I did a blog post about this not too long ago, about left-hand release. And to me, it's one of the things that really helps give you're playing a lot of character, a lot of style. So what I mean by left-hand release. All right, instead of just holding notes down, and letting them ring out, which is good. It creates a nice smooth sound. Sometimes you'll let off a note a little bit earlier, and maybe even use your left hand to mute an open string. See? So instead of, which is good and it sounds great, and you want to be able to play it that way. Play that first note a little bit short whenever you get to this note. Just adds a little bit more character in context here. Right, just adds a little bit of character, a little bit of style. Right? Instead of good, smooth, but just a little bit more rhythm with the left hand release. And it's exactly how I was showing you guys with the banjo. Whenever you do this, you're not letting off all the way. That's going to let the open string ring. It's just enough pressure to deaden the string. And you might need to do this just like we did with the banjo as a little exercise. You just kind of pick it. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you definitely need to be able to do it with each finger. Alright? So another thing that I'm doing there, I think, and this applies to banjo, mandolin, whatever, you know, the picked instruments, stringed instruments, fretted instruments. is adding accents. Okay, so if I'm just playing it with no accents, and accents is playing some notes louder than the others. So if I'm just playing it sans accents, alright, that's another thing that's not a lot of style there, right? Style is subtlety. So adding these little small things that kind of make the rhythm jump or make it, give it a little bit more feeling. Can you recommend some pentatonic scales for bluegrass? Yeah, Jacob, is that for guitar or just anything? Usually minor pentatonic, major pentatonic, and then the minor pentatonic blues are going to be some really good ones. So let's do some examples here. Let's say we're doing G major. Right? It's pretty simple, but it's the pentatonic. Also, you've got this open E string here. So the only notes we're doing is this 3rd fret out of our G chord, open A string, 1st finger, 2nd fret, D string, 2nd fret, D string, and then open G. And you can get a lot of mileage out of that, right? So that's the lower octave. If we're doing the higher octave, pretty simple, just 3rd fret, right there, open, 3rd fret, open, and then 2nd fret, open. Alright, and then playing it kind of with different patterns, so not just straight. The G major pentatonic. If we were going to add a little blue note in there, we'd add the 3rd fret on the G string, and then the 1st fret on the A string. So it sounds like this. And that's where the G run comes in, the famous, right? It's using that blue note. That's really huge part of bluegrass right there, is that little blue note. Yeah, blue notes. It's all about the blue notes, man. So a lot of bluegrass mixes that major and minor, where it's got, where we talked about making a major chord. It's choosing your root note, moving up 4 frets, and then moving up 3 frets. That's how we get our arpeggio and the notes to make a chord. So for G, it's G, B, D. It's major. If we're going to do minor, we do choose our root note, move up 3 frets, which is a minor third, and then move up 4 frets. You can see no matter whether it's major or minor, this note right here, which is called the 5th note, ends up being the same because it's either 3 plus 4 or it's 4 plus 3, right? Major minor or minor major. Point is, a lot of bluegrass, like maybe something like John Hardy, so some people might play that with a really kind of adding that major note. A lot of the times, some modal bluegrass, we call it modal bluegrass because it's not really major or minor. And usually that kind of stuff leans more towards minor, but it sounds a little bit more like this. Like, you really don't hit that major note as much. Maybe, let me think. Maybe there's got a better example than John Hardy for what I'm trying to talk about. Working on a building. I'm working on a building. I'm working on a building. I'm working on a building for my Lord, for my Lord. So a lot of the older bluegrass, you know, there's going to be difference not only in the scale but the chords. So a lot of times the older bluegrass uses this 3-finger G chord with that open B. A lot more modern modal stuff that I'm getting ready to explain some about uses this 4-finger G. Working on a building for my Lord, for my Lord. Right? So somebody doing a little bit more modern approach might use this 4-finger G and do a lick like this. So instead of root note up 4, we're root note up 3. And use that little kind of quarter bend. And instead of using this kind of major pentatonic, this is a minor, what we call a minor 7th note. And then we've got this new blue note right here. So like a common scale used in this kind of stuff is. So I'll probably include this in a little blog post too, going over some of the stuff we went over. So it's a great little. So sometimes you might slide into the major, but a lot of the times it's something more similar to that. All right. Let me see if we've got any more questions in the chat there. All right. That's about it for today, guys. I mean, that's kind of hitting on all the questions we had in the chat, and then all the questions we had beforehand. Just kind of a review over some stuff that we went over. So for banjo speed, use that speed up feature in the Tunefox, right? And start at a tempo that's comfortable. And then isolate and loop those hard measures. So just tap on that, whatever measure you're having trouble with, and it'll loop it over and over. Play it at a comfortable tempo and play it until it's easy. You know, don't play it 5 times, 6 times and be like, okay, I got my practice in. Practice until it's easy. You know, and then once you've got the whole song, loop that whole song, play it continuously. Don't get that sigh of relief after you've played through it once. You know, play through it a bunch of times. And then don't forget to check out the starter series and the jam packs. Because like I said, that takes us, instead of playing these really notey arrangements, that's a lot harder to get at speed. We kind of play at half that speed. Right? So it still keeps the essence of the melody and allows you to get to a lot higher speeds if you're going to a jam or something. It's something that's going to be really useful for you, I think. I think we had someone ask about some melodic banjo scales. Sorry I didn't hit on that, but we've got a lot of melodic banjo scale workouts in the song section for banjo. So make sure to check those out. We've got melodic scales in the tunes, and we've actually got in the lesson section, we've got getting started with melodic banjo. So that's a great lesson to check out. And then we've got the G, D, and C melodic scale workouts, which will get you very familiar with those scales, all right? And then, let's see here. Had someone ask about playing a group. Make sure to learn those standards, right? Learn those standard songs. And then watch out for that movable course on double stops next month. All right, thanks everybody for tuning in. Thank you for your questions. I hope you guys learned something, and be on the lookout for the next live lessons and have those questions ready, all right? We'll see you guys next time. Bye.